And he looks over to me at dinner and he said, "Hey man, what is wrong with us?" Right? And yeah, you got to have I think overall a healthcare passion. Even if you're a clinician, you have to worry about the business side. And if you're on the business side, well, you got to keep the clinical going. It's all tied together.
But just to rewind and recap here, this is great. I love talking to entrepreneurs and how they started their businesses. Welcome back to The Doers, the podcast where we dive into the real stories of building, struggling, and thriving in dentistry. I'm your host, Dan Hull. I'm joined today here live at Inner Circle 2026 with Hootan ProspHire. Hootan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dan, and thank you for having me here at Inner Circle. I am already loving the energy. I love the atmosphere. Last night, I felt it and can't wait to get started.
Yeah, so you got a great story. I mean, you're at ProspHire, but before that, you owned your own company. It was Code, right?
That's correct.
You all did RCM billing. And that's like one of the hardest things in dentistry. And then I hear you jump over to ProspHire, where you all, correct me if I'm wrong, you help people select technology, implement technology at large-scale DSOs and emerging DSOs.
Correct.
Are you crazy? Those are the two hardest things to do in dentistry.
So, funny story, just this morning at the coffee station, I ran into an old friend. And he reminded me when I saw him that we went to dinner, one of the first times I ever met him. And he's been in dental 20 years. I've been in dental almost 20 years. And he looks over to me at dinner and he said, "Hey man, what is wrong with us?" Right? And yeah, you got to have I think overall a healthcare passion for all of it to some extent, right? Like, even if you're a clinician, you have to worry about the business side. And if you're on the business side, well, you got to keep the clinical going. It's all tied together. And so when I first got into dental, it was really by accident. A best friend of mine was a dentist. He asked me to be his office manager. And very quickly, early in that journey, there was claims that I was sending out to dental insurance that were returning saying, "Hey, we need you to bill medical first." I was young. I didn't know really anything about dental. And so that's kind of how I got into medical billing. It was just out of necessity in just one little office in Los Angeles County. And then as the years went by, I realized, no, there's actually a lot of offices who don't utilize medical insurance for their patients. And at the time, CBCT was ramping up, becoming common.
It just coming to market.
And at that time, this is about 15, 16 years ago, sleep apnea was getting a lot of attention in Los Angeles. That's originally where I was from. And that obviously went through medical. So I said, there might be a viable option here to really be specific about something, because business and clinical are two big words.
Yeah.
But you really need to hone into, in my opinion, one thing you're really good at. And so I was pretty good at it. And then from there, it just really took off. So I started the company in 2013, and then I sold in 2024.
But just to rewind and recap here, this is great. I love talking to entrepreneurs and how they started their businesses. So essentially what you're telling me is a rejected dental claim that spun up your business.
Correct.
That's awesome. And that was in 2013, you said?
No, that experience started in 2007.
2007. Okay.
In terms of just me running into these denials.
Sure.
First 90 days on the job, and we had an oral surgeon that would come to our practice once every 2 months, and third molar cases were coming out to $2.5 grand. So if you had about 15 grand that went out in AR, 6, 7, 8 of it at times was jamming up because dental was asking me to bill medical first.
Okay. So what made you make the shift out of the medical billing?
So I enjoyed medical billing. It was a great part of my life, but after 11 years of doing it, I certainly needed a change. Personally, things had changed. When I first started the company, I was not married, didn't have kids. Now I have a family. The travel, the demand, the effort that is needed to be a successful entrepreneur, I just was not in that position anymore. I wanted to focus on family. And I'm not saying entrepreneurs don't focus on family, but I think any good entrepreneur knows, if they're listening to this, there's kind of no vacation. You are top dog.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like the reason we have the name of the podcast. It's The Doers. I mean, kudos to you to have the self-awareness of knowing where your limitations are. because I think a lot of folks don't do that and they sacrifice one or the other, either the business or the family. And then there's the superstars who can just figure it all out, right?
Right.
And great for them, the half percenters, we'll call them. But good for you to have that awareness, and then you decided to jump over to ProspHire, or did you take some time off?
I took time off. So I took time off. I traveled a good bit, went and saw friends in different cities, did some remodeling to the house. And then when I came into 2025, I said to myself, hey, because I have runway, I want to work somewhere that meets my values, shares a similar philosophy, great culture, so I could be very deliberate, which is truly a blessing. And so as I was getting approached by various companies, ProspHire really stood out. From a consulting standpoint, they very heavy in medical, been around for 10, 11 years. They started a dental vertical 3-4 years ago. And really where it kicked off was large-scale DPMS conversions, typically from a legacy server-based software to some kind of cloud-based software. And that has worked out really well. We help DSOs go through that transition. And now we've also gotten into some RCM play with my background, particularly on the medical side. And the final piece I do want to mention, because it was such a big aspect of my life, I was one of the faculty over at Dr. Agarwal's 3D Dentist Education Institute. And during that time, I did a lot of, obviously, teaching with him.
Sure.
And that was always something that I enjoyed. And I was around a lot of clinical stuff those years, and just in general in my career. So also we help...
You're talking about T-Bone, right?
Yeah.
He was just on last week.
Yes.
Great guy. He's so insightful, and like what he knows about the industry when it comes from a clinical standpoint and a business standpoint, running the mastermind courses. Great person to work with. It had to be amazing during those years.
I was just telling somebody earlier today, it was some of the best years of my life. And I can't thank him enough for everything he taught me. So the third aspect of ProspHire is, if you want to scale something clinically, we would like to take from 12 offices right now that can place implants to 25. And something like that, ProspHire would possibly partner, let's say, with Dr. Agarwal T-Bone. And so we would build around his education to scale that clinical piece within that DSO.
Okay, so you guys are just bringing, pardon me, the operational side to those individuals that want to scale those, essentially a business unit within their business.
That's correct.
Whether you're looking at implants. That's amazing. So as you reflect back, you got a great story. I mean, going from an entrepreneur, you sell that business, take a little time off, find the right place to go, you land there. It's kind of funny that you're coming back to RCM inside of there.
Yes.
That resource. As you look at that journey, what are you most proud of as you reflect back?
Probably what stands out, and it's sometimes I forget, and somebody reminded me recently, in those 11 years of doing those claims were, in some instances, of course not all, there was basic claims, obviously. There was claims where I don't know if that patient would have gotten the care if medical had not stepped in. Severe trauma cases where we're talking 30 to 80 grand medical covered. All of the sleep appliances that we've helped get covered. So when I think about how many lives that I had maybe a small part in to financially assist in getting access to care, makes me feel good. I hope, it really made an impact somewhere.
And you're not the first to say that. I mean, a lot of people that are in this space that I've talked to on the podcast, that's what really motivates them to go out and do that every day, is they're out there helping people with their healthcare needs, right? And a lot of times dentistry doesn't get viewed through that lens all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's awesome. Good. I mean, good for you to, recognize that and be willing to help people out and get that healthcare. If I'm listening to this, and hopefully there's a ton of people out there tuning in as we're live at Inner Circle 2026, what's the best way to get in touch with you? If they want to have a chat to look at rolling out RCM or selecting a new tech stack or going into those implants?
Sure. My email address is hshahidi@prospire ProspHire.com. So Shahidi at ProspHire.com. Or you could go to our website and make an inquiry there. So that would just be ProspHire. So that's ProspHire.com, ProspHire.com. And yeah, just
I think it hit you up on LinkedIn.
Or LinkedIn. How's that? Hootan Shahidi.
Cool. Oh, well, thanks for joining us. And thanks for those that tuned in, listened, watched. If you like what you're hearing and you like the chat we had about building a business and being in the trenches, going through all the hard stuff, keep listening. Until then, keep doing the work.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.